Hey everybody, we're gonna jump into some drawing today. You're gonna need 2 pieces of paper and a Sharpie, and that's about it. All right, so the first piece of paper, do me a favor, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. So now that we have this piece of paper, it's got those lines on it, put that to the side. You're not gonna need that for a little bit of time. Next up, grab your other piece of paper, the one that's not folded, and now we're gonna start drawing some stuff on it. Hold on tight, here we go. All right, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna take the regular size Sharpie here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna write down the word hatching. Okay, so we have hatching. What I want you to do is I want you to do some hatches. Hatches are just lines, okay? They can go vertical, they can go horizontal. And we're gonna do some more lines over here. They could be small little lines, but that's what hatching is. So hatching, it's lines, okay? Next up, we're gonna do cross hatching. Forgot my N in there. All right, so now that we know what hatching is, cross hatching is the same thing with a slight twist to it. So if I have my lines, cross hatching is just doing the same thing, but with some lines going in it, okay? I can also do a little bit more of like the cross ways, not just horizontal and vertical. Okay, so we have cross hatching. Now, here's where things are going to get a little bit different. We're going to come over here and we're going to write in spacing. Okay? Now on a typical value scale, you would probably have some like super dark to super light, and it's going to be like a line like that. And this is where it's super black. If I were to have a pencil, this is where it would be like super shading. And then as we get closer down the line, it gets lighter and lighter, right? Well, we're not doing this, so don't worry about that part. What we're gonna be doing, we're still gonna use our regular size here. It's all about spacing, right? So if I have my lines close together, and then as I work my way down, it gets a little bit farther and farther apart. See how it's darker over here, and then it gets a little bit lighter as we go. What we're going to do over here is we're going to do spacing again, but we're going to do cross hatching with our spacing. Okay? So just like before, we have our 10 value, which is super dark, and our 1 value. And if I do the same thing, start off putting a little bit of some gaps there, and then on the far side we're going to do some cross hatches. put a little bit less as we go down. Okay? So we have a couple of different ways to bringing value into our picture here. And value just means how light and how dark is it. Okay? So the next thing that I want to do is I want you to try practicing. I want you to take these things here and put them into one little example. So I want you to draw a square. Okay? And then we're going to make it a box now. All right, so now we have a box. You need to figure out where your sunlight is coming from, because that tells you where your shadows are going to be. So if I have my sun over here, here's a little happy sun. It's shining bright. My sun is saying, hey, you need to go this way. So this tells me that my shadow is going to be on the other side of the box. So I can quickly draw a shadow. We know it's going to be a square. So I can draw my square. It's going to be flat, right? Shadows don't just drop off. They're flat, and they come all the way over. Okay, so I've got my shadow, I've got my box. Now we need to start actually using these pieces to color it in. All right, so I know that the shadow is going to be super dark, but I don't want to just color it. I want it to be darker, but not 100% black. So I'm going to keep my lines close together, just like up here, and then I'm going to do some cross hatching as well. Okay, so that makes it a lot more dark than just above. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the side of the box. We know that this side of the box is going to be darker than this side because the sun will kind of whip around, but it's not going to hit that side. So I'm going to just come in and probably use some of my hatching a little bit more spaced out though. Oops. Okay. Sure my lines go all the way from one side to the other. So it kind of creates this nice little shape here. Now here's a fun one for you. We know that the light doesn't hit the bottom, so we want to keep the bottom sharp and dark, right? But we know that the sun's going to kind of hit the box there and kind of go around. So what we can do is we can actually take our Sharpie, and we're going to use a little bit more over here, but we're also going to use size. So maybe, right, so now it comes over. So now we have our box that shows a little bit of some dimension there. Okay, let's put the cap back on this guy, and let's open up this one here. Next, what I want you to do is I want you to write dots or points. It's also called stippling. Okay? And what this is it's dots. Now, it's not like taking your pencil and just jamming it in. That's going to break your pen. Right? It's just dots. And it's put in the same type of thing that we can do up here. If I want it to be super dark versus super light, I can keep my dots close together. I can add more dots. And then as I go down the list, it gets lighter and lighter. And so I can come back, add a couple more stippling in here. Some more dots. Make it a little bit darker. Try to blend it out a little bit now. Okay? So we can do the same thing for our box. Once again, if we take our shadow and just go straight back, and we're just going to connect it, I can add a whole bunch of little dots here on the bottom, on the shadow, because we know this is going to be super dark. And this is where it's like, oh my goodness, putting in all those dots, that's a lot of time versus this one. So maybe a crosshatch might be a better use. But for this demonstration, we're just starting off nice and easy. Then we're going to add the dots up on the side here because, you know, no light hits it. Might need to add a couple more dots down below. We'll add a couple of dots over there. All right, so now we have a couple of different things that work together. One last thing. Here's where things get a little bit tricky. All right. Follow the ant, also known as smooth lines. Okay? A lot of artists, when they start off, they do the whole kind of this little thing. We don't want that. We want to have a smooth, consistent line. Okay, so just practice drawing some smooth, consistent lines. Don't do the repeating yourself. Nice, smooth lines. Okay? You can even try it with the thick side. Keeping your Sharpie nice and still. Alright, here's what I want you to do. I want the other side. I want you to put your name on it, put a box around it so I know where it's at. Take a photo and turn that in.